There are stories that don't start with screams or chaos. They start quietly, in the middle of an ordinary day, when everything feels safe and familiar. That's exactly how this one begins. No warning, no sign of danger, just a teenage girl, a summer afternoon, and a man who had already decided that today, someone would disappear. Kara Robinson woke up that morning believing it would be just another normal day. She was 15 at her best friend's house, spending time like any teenager would, talking about music, summer break, and meaningless topics that felt important back then. Nothing seemed strange. When her friend went inside to take a quick shower, Kara stayed outside for a moment. It was a casual decision, something anyone would do without thinking. At that exact moment, Richard Evenitz was slowly driving through the neighborhood. He had done it before. He watched, scanned, and waited. He parked the car, got out, and walked toward Kara with a relaxed posture. No rush, no visible tension. He approached her like someone who was about to ask for directions. But instead of talking, he slightly lifted his shirt and revealed a gun at his waist. Without raising his voice, he simply said, "Get in. Don't make this harder." No one heard anything. There was no shouting, no scene, just a quiet moment where everything shifted. Kara understood instantly. This wasn't a misunderstanding. She was being taken, and no one around her had any idea that it was happening. After forcing Kara into the car, Richard didn't speed away or act like someone who had just committed a crime. He drove normally, obeying traffic, blending into the quiet suburban rhythm like nothing had happened. Kara sat in the back, a container placed over her head to restrict her view and breathing. It wasn't chaotic. It was controlled. That told her something important. This man had done this before. He wasn't improvising. Richard Evenitz wasn't a random attacker. He was a former Navy serviceman. Neighbors described him as polite, quiet, even boring. The kind of person people greet casually and forget 2 seconds later. Under that normal exterior, however, was someone who had already committed multiple unsolved crimes. He had abducted and murdered before, leaving police with no solid leads. And now, sitting in the back of his car, Kara Robinson had no idea that she had just been taken by a serial predator who was already being looked at by law enforcement, without them knowing his name. While the car moved, Kara didn't scream. She didn't beg. She did something different. She counted every turn, estimated time, and paid attention to sound and movement. She mentally traced the route, trying to piece together where they might be heading. She didn't know it, but this decision, to stay mentally present instead of shutting down, would later make the difference between becoming another missing person case or surviving. Richard drove her to his apartment. Not an isolated cabin, not a basement in the woods. A regular apartment complex, surrounded by people living normal lives. There were cars parked outside, neighbors nearby, and noise from the street. All the elements of safety were literally meters away, yet none of it applied to Kara anymore. He took her inside quickly. The apartment was tidy, controlled, almost sterile. That wasn't a good sign. It meant he prepared for this. The bedroom had restraints already installed at the bed frame. There were cigarettes in an ashtray, neatly placed. There were ropes laid out, not thrown around, but positioned deliberately. And in that environment, Kara realized something else. Panic wouldn't save her. If she lost her mind, she would lose her chance. She would need to study everything. Richard's body language, his routines, what objects he used often, where he kept keys, phones, weapons. Everything could matter later. Kara was already planning her escape. When the opportunity came, she acted. She reached for the handcuff key without hesitation, unlocked her wrists, and quietly stood. She stepped over him carefully so he wouldn't wake and moved toward the door. She opened it slowly and walked into the hallway. Not running, not screaming. She waited for the right moment to move faster. She ran only when she reached the parking lot and saw 2 men cleaning a car. She approached them calmly and said, "I was kidnapped. Please call the police." They took her seriously immediately. Within minutes, the authorities arrived at the apartment. Richard Evenitz had left small signs of his presence, but Kara's careful observation gave the police everything they needed to find him. days later, Evans was cornered by law enforcement and ultimately took his own life, leaving behind evidence of multiple prior crimes. Kara Robinson survived not by chance, not by luck, but by staying alert, observing, and acting with clear strategy. Every detail she noticed, every moment she stayed focused, was a small but critical piece of her survival. Her experience would later help law enforcement understand patterns and prevent other abductions. This wasn't a story of chaos or panic. It was a story of calculated attention and courage under pressure. And Kara's presence of mind is what saved her life. Kara Robinson didn't just survive. She outsmarted a man who had built his entire life around control and domination. Her story isn't about fear. It's about clarity in the middle of horror, about how presence of mind can turn the darkest moment into a chance for life. Years later, Kara used her experience to help others. She became an advocate for survivors, speaking publicly about resilience, observation, and staying calm under pressure. What happened to her was unimaginable, but what she did after changed lives. Because sometimes survival isn't luck, it's strategy. And Kara Robinson proved that even in the most terrifying moments, the power to fight back can come from a single thought: I will not die here. If you made it this far, remember, what saved Kara wasn't strength, it was focus. And sometimes, that's all it takes to turn a victim into a survivor.